And this is cause number 26 DCCR 0112. Mr. Jackson was previously in court, entered a plea of guilty to aggravated robbery. There was no agreement in this case. I've received the pre-sentence report. Have you both had an opportunity to review that report?
We have, Your Honor. State has, Judge.
Are there any additions or corrections?
Not from the defense. Not from the state, Judge.
All right, Mr. Rojas, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I realize, Judge, we've got a problem with guns in this county, and more specifically in the city.
Right away, this courtroom tension goes through the roof because there's no plea agreement here. That means the judge has full discretion on sentencing, and in an aggravated robbery case involving guns, that can swing from probation all the way to decades behind bars. At this point, Paul Jackson genuinely has no idea whether he's walking out with a second chance or losing years of his life.
In the city. I don't know that anything we do here today is going to solve that problem. Certainly there are things you can do to deter other people watching this and see what happens to young people with guns. But I think there are some people who are not going to learn their lesson until they go to prison and spend a certain amount of time there. There are some people who are going to go to prison and never going to learn that lesson. They'll just spend their life in a revolving door coming into court, prison, into court, back to prison. And there are those that, for whatever reason, the circumstances they find themselves in their life.
And this is where the prosecution sharpens the knife. The phrase ghost gun instantly changes the atmosphere in court. Prosecutors know judges take untraceable firearms extremely seriously because they suggest planning, concealment, and escalation. But here's the bigger question. Should a teenager's age and background outweigh the danger of the crime itself? Drop your opinion in the comments. Was the prosecutor pushing for accountability or making an example out of him?
They make bad decisions, make mistakes, and are deserving of a second chance. He was raised by his mother and his grandmother. He lost his mother, I think he was 15 when she passed away. His life went into a downward spiral from there.
Your Honor, you know where I stand on these kind of cases, so I won't belabor that. But what I will do is point out what I consider to be aggravating factors in this case, Judge. And despite Mr. Rojas's argument as to what mitigation there is in this case, I believe the aggravating circumstances outweigh any mitigating circumstances. And what I'm getting at is the fact that this defendant robbed at gunpoint with another co-defendant who was also brandishing a firearm, a 16-year-old, took his iPhone in front of that 16-year-old's 5-year-old niece, Judge. Can you imagine the trauma to that 5-year-old to watch her 16-year-old uncle get robbed at gunpoint?
That
Judge?
Statement tells you everything about the judge's internal conflict. She agrees with the prosecution that the crime was dangerous, but she also sees potential for rehabilitation. And honestly, these are the hardest cases for judges. Young defendants, violent charges, and one decision that could either save a life or unleash another tragedy. You can actually hear her weighing punishment against possibility in real time.
Judge. And with regard to the firearm that this defendant used, it was a P80, Your Honor, for the courts, in case you're not familiar with that. Polymer 80 firearm that comes in a firearm kit that is partially complete. Doesn't take much to make it a functioning firearm. The thing about that is the ATF calls those guns ghost guns because they have no serial number. I submit to the court, what does a defendant, in this case, at the time, a 17-year-old defendant, need with a firearm that does not have a serial number, Judge? So for those reasons, I say that any mitigating circumstances are outweighed by those aggravating circumstances that I just referenced. And I'd ask the court to sentence this defendant in accordance with your sentences in other similarly situated cases, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Mr. Jackson, these cases are hard for me, and I know Mr. Rojas has told you what's been going on and what's been going on in this court, and I'm sure you're aware of all of that.
This moment completely shifts the emotional tone of the hearing. The judge stops talking like a prosecutor and starts talking like someone trying to reach a young man before the system permanently swallows him. And notice what she's doing here. She's forcing him to confront the difference between grief and choices. Courtrooms aren't always cold legal machines. Sometimes they become brutally personal.
I find your case a little bit different than some, but not the guns are the biggest concern for me and for everyone. And the using them in a way like it's no big deal, and everybody having them at 15, 16, 14, whatever. I appreciate the fact also, though, that you've never been in trouble. As a juvenile, you've never been in our system. You figured out real quick that you need to follow the rules in jail, because I'm sure word got out there people are talking about the fact that is something that really affects me and what I do. And so I appreciate the fact that you've gotten your act together out there.
That wasn't just a warning. That was the judge drawing a line in concrete. She's basically saying, I am taking a risk on you, and if you burn that trust, the next sentence will be devastating. Deferred probation in a case this serious is a massive break. One violation, one gun, one bad decision, and the punishment range explodes. This is the kind of courtroom moment that can define someone's entire future.
And I'm talking because I don't know what I'm going to do with you right now. Because I don't disagree with either attorney here today. And that puts me in a position where I've got my job is two things. Is one to, well, more than that, really. One is to protect our community. Another is to punish. Another is to rehabilitate. It's something where I have to potentially take chances that makes me sometimes uncomfortable. It looks like that before your mom passed away, you were doing really well in school, playing basketball, right? And that's a hard thing to go through, especially at your age. But you can't let something like that get you where you are now, right? What would she want you to be doing? Not this, right? So does grandmother live in the same neighborhood where all this took place? You live with your grandmother, but does she live in that same neighborhood? Is that where you were living when this happened?
This hearing became less about punishment and more about whether redemption is actually possible. The judge built an entire structure around keeping him away from guns, bad influences, and the environment tied to the crime. But now comes the hardest part, freedom with conditions. Because probation sounds lenient until you realize every single mistake can send you straight to prison. So what do you think? Did the judge make the right call giving him one last chance?